This is a conversation between Markus Herberholt and Lucas Forstmeyer.
I'm mostly here because I find whenever I talk to you, I find it inspiring because in my estimate, you have had really deep experiences in these realms of consciousness and enlightenment and shit like that. And but you have this in
Can you see it? The goosebumps again.
There we go.
Yeah.
And you have this interesting mixture of you have these experiences and you have had these experiences, but on another level you don't seem to make too big of a deal of it, but rather like life still has its ups and downs, and some things where you thought you would everything changed didn't actually. And it's kind of and it seems kind of like you're honest with that. So I would love to both talk about what your experiences were, but also how it is now. And thank God I have about 15 minutes for that. So I'm gonna ask now. So first of all, I would really like to know what were your first experiences really with consciousness, or your first big openings in that realm? Like
15 minutes is nothing for it.
I know.
So I really try to keep it short, and I often get lost in the stories. I already see that a lot of things are popping up I would like to talk about, but in 15 minutes it's just too short. Well, about consciousness, when I got the first contact with it, I had no clue about it. I was getting into touch with it, well, about body work, Marshall in detail, and I stumbled into consciousness work. I went to the States, to Peter Ralston, to study martial art, basically, or body movement for me in this case. And the first workshop was called Experiencing the Nature of Being. And I had no clue what that might be, or really, I was really not into any kind of this work like consciousness or even esoteric stuff or whatsoever. And that was the best start, I think, that I guess, or in my thinking, enabled me to, or made it able to really get that deep as I was, from my perspective at least, because I had no concepts whatsoever. The words in itself had no, well, not meaning, but no story behind it. There was nothing attached to it. So I was pretty much free of it. And another big value was that it was in English, that I really had to follow what was being said. When I had internal dialogue about something, for example, I did not understand, there was no time to think about it, to ponder it or something like that. I really had to stay in the moment and listening what was being said. And I noticed on a very subtle level what we are doing with our minds when we don't understand something, how we lose the moment. We are not being in touch with the moment anymore. We are busy doing something else, and we lose so much in our perception. And I think that was one of the biggest, well, chances as well to really delve so deep into the work and the mind as well, or
so
consciousness.
You got to this workshop Experiencing the Nature of Being, and you had no idea, like what the fuck is being, what is consciousness, those words. You didn't really have a story about them. You were just like, okay, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, that's part of the, it was like I was about to stay 5 weeks, 4 weeks open workshops, 1 week with the apprentice people. And for me, it was about body movement. I was studying pretty much, body movement, martial, whatever. And well, it was part of the workshops. So, okay, I take that one as well, but I don't know why. that's part of it. That's okay.
And what happened then in that workshop?
Well, I cannot say if the experiences I had is really what Peter is intending with the workshops. For me, I'm saying that in those 7 days, I got who I was, or who I am, what I am. I got also what another is on a very deep level, and it.
And maybe as a quick context for people listening or watching
who
don't have a clue about Peter Elston's work. Peter Elston does a lot of contemplation work where you contemplate questions like, who am I? What is another human being? Or what is another? And you contemplate them intensely, trying to really get the truth of it in a direct experience, whatever that means. Yeah. And it seems like you had no idea what that meant.
Nope. I had no idea. Yeah. Well, that was the best start, really. Yeah, I talked a lot about this already in the past, also in another interview. So really getting into it would just blow the time away, like 15 minutes. I have the ENB on DVDs as well, like a course you can make. It is exactly the one, a recording of the one I did in 2008.
Can I, because this is my time, so can
I? Yeah,
of
course, sure. Of course.
The thing I'm really curious about is, so you were at this workshop, you had this weird contemplation stuff as part of your movement, and what was the experiences you had, whether it was what Peter intended or not, I don't really care.
Yeah. Okay,
but what were the experiences you had?
With that one experience, which literally blew my mind, was to get who I am. And I'm having goosebumps with it. I feel the opening again with it, and it's amazing. It's well, to get who I am or what I am. Yeah, that's just one sentence. If you ask me what was the experience, well, I became conscious. That's the point. And if you don't get it, if you don't have had the experience yourself, you have no clue what I'm talking about. It's not phenomena that goes with it, perhaps can go with it, or an experience. It's not an experience. And this is hardly to get if you don't have it. You really have to get it. It's not intellectual, it's becoming conscious. It's not perception, it's not experience, it's not phenomena. I had a lot of phenomena beforehand going on, but that's not it. Bliss, okay, if you have bliss, fine, but that's not it by itself. People get it and they don't have bliss, they don't have phenomena, they don't have anything. It's like, okay. And that's it. That's all.
So the core of it, and it seems to me like while you talk about it, actually your state shifts, or at least my perception of you shifts. I don't know if that's myself, your state shifting. But it's, and I love that distinction of, it's not about the experience. It's not about the whatever happens, but there was the becoming conscious.
Yeah. I feel almost tears coming. It's and I feel the shift in the state you mentioned. It's like well, being me again. It's like being connected in a certain way with it again. And it's amazing. But it's whatever you think it is, it's not. I don't know if that's much of a help in your question. I would have to talk much more about it. I can talk about later, I think, in the next 15 minutes or some time.
And actually, to me, I'm very touched by seeing you actually get touched just by your memory of it.
Touched.
And it seems
being
like
touched.
and it seems like it's both a memory and something that's present right now.
Yeah.
And
I feel a phenomena with it when it's like being connected. I feel it. It's yeah, it's being in that state as well, like being connected with it. Yes, it's not just memory now. It's being. Yes.
experiencing the nature of being. Huh?
Yep. Covered with a lot of shit we do.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so number one, I think I get a taste of it while I'm sitting with you. It's I'm still fascinated by this. It's becoming conscious, like something you were just not conscious of before.
Well, I thought so, but I already knew it as child. I was it as child. It's I know, the memory that came with it. Like, yeah, of course. The idea as child, I think it's impossible as a child, perhaps at least for me, impossible to think that it could be another way. We add this stuff later on when we grow up. We add this stuff. But there was a knowing already as child. It's well, some people say it like, are you sure? Of course, because they knew. Many people think they would have to get something else instead, but no, it's you being you.
And what I'm curious about, because to me it seems like when we try to talk about that, we enter this kind of paradox of language really fucks with you trying to express these things.
Yeah.
I'm curious, having had that experience of getting who you are, how has that impacted your life afterwards?
It's still impacting. Well, it changed my life, I think, completely. The way I took from there, I think. Talking about it, I have some inner dialogue like, nope, that's not completely true because it's part of my whole life, I could say. But that's another story. That's not enough time here for that. It had a huge impact. It felt for me when I got it. Afterwards, it was like getting into touch with a purpose, life purpose again. I could say why I'm here, but that's not something I want to get into because it's belief stuff and of no help at that point of time, I think. But to your question, how it changed my life or the influence of it. Afterwards, it was clear to me what I wanted to do in my life because by that time I have said I got into contact with the life purpose again, which was clear as child as well. The whole behavior was according to that purpose my whole lifetime. Getting into contact with that and trying to live that purpose and thinking just to talk about it with people would open them up, would create that experience for them as well, or the possibility. And it did not. It was quite the opposite. And people who get it, it seems to be always the same story for people getting it. They try to share it and it doesn't work. They have to learn that it doesn't work this way. And it's so much stuff into it. And after that, to make it short, I learned a lot. I tried to find ways to communicate it, to live with it, to integrate it in daily life. Chop wood, carry water. Everybody knows it who's into consciousness work, at least. So how to integrate it in one's life, how how to live it, how to stay with it, how not to lose it again, and also to understand, especially to understand how the mind is working, how it was. I was sitting after, when I was back home, I asked myself, like, how is it possible to have such a shift in experience within a couple of days and staying there for 5 weeks? How is it possible? How does it work? And it seems that this question was so deep that I was influenced by it the whole years, because I got the answers, not just intellectual, I got them experientially. And this is where I am today as well. Like I collected so much stuff, so much tools, so to speak, to be able to communicate it, to see where people are, why people are where they are, how the mind is working, how experience is being created, and all that stuff. And having the tools in place now, and an experiential understanding of it. Yeah, that was created the past years, the years after that experience. And for me, it's in my thinking, it's something. Well, I'm not saying that. Well, I am saying that from experience comes wisdom as well, and I hope it's not being misunderstood like wisdom, someone sitting on the mountaintop and being wise or some stuff. No, that's not it. What I'm talking about, it's to really get something with your whole body, with your whole being, with your whole understanding, or maybe even consciousness, I don't know, to become conscious of some dynamics, a nature about something, to really get it, have it. And it's different than learning something intellectually by books or some stuff, or a math formula equation. That's not it. It's really getting it. This is what I mean with wisdom, to be able to come from there. Makes it completely different to work with people or to experience yourself.
And my 15 minutes are officially up. So you have 15 minutes now to talk about whatever you're inspired. Like, what is it that you're actually thinking about? It could be this wisdom aspect. And I'm primarily here to listen to you and to maybe support you through a few questions. But really about your exploration.
I think I just continue where I just stopped, because it's moving in the same direction, I think. Well, I'm not sure. You see, I really have to dig deep down somewhere.
I actually really enjoy seeing these small back and forths in you, trying to be as honest as possible, going like tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, and trying to make it not too long or just storytelling. It's basically, I keep talking about the past years, how it influenced me, because it's still influencing me. At the moment, I feel more connected. Well, not really more connected. I think I'm at the point where I can start now to really work with it as well. What does it mean to work with it? Well, I think the things are in place now. I tried to start to work with it a couple of years ago.
What do you mean by it?
Okay. Well, I think if I break it down, it comes to have others to create the possibility for themselves to get it as well, but that's not the main purpose. No. You see, when you look around and see how people relate to each other, how we relate to ourselves even, I think this is one big aspect, and I have to go back to where it started. Even before, as child, I already was myself, also knowing who I am. There was no doubt. Even the question was never coming up, like, who am I? What? Why? And later on in teen years, I lost it. When I look at my timeline or my history, I can see as if everything had a purpose, and still has. And seeing how people relate to themselves, to others, as I said, how they hurt themselves, because this is what I got with the ENV as well, like being able within the first 2-3 days to see or to realize by going through my whole history and completing things. That means to see that I project, that I put value on everything, that to get really experientially, to get that I am responsible for my experience. There's no value in anything. There is everything, we attach everything we experience. It's an attachment to something we perceive. It's not there. We can come down to, we perceive an object. Okay, we can agree we perceive any kind of object. Let's take physical objects. And everything you experience, emotion, value, whatsoever, even your thoughts about it, are not inherent in that object. It's not there. And people don't get it. They get it intellectually, like, yeah, sure, I know. But no, you don't get it. If you would get it, you would act differently. You would behave differently. You can see, what I can see, when people have it, the behavior is different. The expression of their eyes is different, especially the eyes. It's some clarity in it. If they have a certain level of consciousness, you can see it. And getting it in that workshop, like, fuck, I'm doing it to myself. I'm hurting myself. All the pain, all the projection I did, like, you are, or he, she, whoever is responsible for my pain. They create my pain. No, I create my pain. And it was like being hit with a baseball bat, like, fuck, how stupid am I? I am doing it myself. I'm hurting myself. How stupid can I be? You have no power to hurt me. Nobody has the power to hurt me. Well, they can come over and hit me physically or something like that. Sure, okay. But nobody can hurt me. I'm creating the hurt. I'm hurting myself. And the freedom that came with it, stopping it, not intellectually stopping it, to not have it in my experience anymore. It was gone. It was over, done, not present.
Would you say it was completely gone?
Completely gone. Non-existent, gone, not present. And the change in my experience with it, the change to stop projecting, the change to feel hurt, the openness that arises with it, like being really not knowing. We did some work before where I really got on a very deep level that the thought about something is not the thing in itself. The map is not the territory, or whatever you can say. You can take whatever you want describing it, but getting it on an experiential level is different. It's like an opening, like the whole, I'm not my story. Everything I think about things is not it. Then what is it? I mean, seriously, what is it? And the openness that comes with it, like really being curious, that's an essential part in it. That's something that's for me mandatory. If you really want to delve into consciousness, into knowing what something is, start really wondering. No second agenda, no becoming better, no being seen better from someone. Even maybe yourself, to see yourself in a different aspect. No, fuck that, forget about it. If you don't like what you find, hell, deal with it. You have to look in all directions, even in things that you think it may be wrong to look. If you are not looking there, you miss it maybe.
It sounds like, in one way, that's like a radical perspective of self-responsibility and like,
yeah,
be a fucking grown-up.
Yeah, yep, that's growing up as well. You can be 90 years old and a child pondering, not pondering, pouting and stuff. It's not the age in years. That's growing up, like becoming really conscious and responsible for your own experience. But it's of no help to hear it when I talk about it, because you may not have it. You can see it. Well, you can actually have or get a glimpse, like, okay, that's another perspective. It's intellectual understanding, helpful. And maybe it does create an opening to look into, okay, is it true? Is it perhaps really true? Am I creating it? Well, that's not my experience, because if I see something, I get angry, I get happy, I get whatever. So if this is there, then I'm feeling it. It must be created from the thing. No, it's not. It's not. There are so many dynamics in our mind going on, which we are not conscious of, but we can become conscious of it. And when we become conscious of it, we can change it. That's the point. But I lost myself here again a little bit.
I personally, I enjoy your rants. That's the reason why we're sitting here.
Okay. Well, but to come back to your question, to become free of it, the change in my own experience was so amazing. And I think, well, happiness, happiness was there, freedom, well, there was bliss and stuff like that, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I mean. It's becoming free. That's the point. It's becoming free. The door is just opening up in the background. Never mind. The freedom that comes with it, you become free of your, well, in some case of your prison. Yeah, in some way of your prison. And that's something, well, when you get it, you become free. I call it also programming, maybe from NLP stuff or whatever. We have programs, we have routines, things we learn, behavior, thoughts, values, all that stuff. And suddenly you become free of it. And the freedom, it's not just freedom like most people think, well, freedom is I can do what I want. That's not it. You can feel it in your body. It's like the body becomes lighter. It's more space. The space in which you live becomes more free. It's not hampered. It's wide open. And the whole experience is amazing. It's like, it was for me like being a child again, like really experiencing the whole world anew, seeing more colors, more colorful, intense. The whole perception is cleansed in some way. And you can start from there to create a life you really want, which you really want. By that time I thought that it's possible perhaps that people have a life purpose why they are here. I don't know if that's true or not. But by that time I had like, wow, I was connected to my life purpose. And that was one thing, to free or help people to become free of their limitations. I wouldn't say it in the same way today, because I learned a lot more in that time. But to make an offer to, yeah, it's an offer, it's an invitation to become free, to really create, in a very basic level, to create a life you really want. The best way is to become really free in a way like I had the experience, but I don't want to force it to anyone. It's everybody can decide. Do you want this? Or, well, basically, are you happy in your life? That should be the first question. Are you happy in your life? If you're happy, don't touch this word. It may fuck you up. It may fuck you up for a certain period of time. Is it worth it? Hell yeah, I would say yes. But it's not necessary. And it's also not necessary to deliberately start this work, because I did not start it deliberately. I stumbled into it, but I had many realizations way before I started this work, by traveling, by living, by just living. Life was teaching those lessons as well. It's not necessary to sit there and say, I want to become conscious. If that's the case, most often there's a secondary agenda. Most often it's, well, I have to become better. No, that's not it. It's really wondering. It's really questioning. It's like, I really want to know, not to get better or be seen in a different light. That's not it. Well, I think I got lost. But that's one thing I want to do with the work. You ask, what is it? Basically, that's it. Like I was mentioning how people relate to themselves and one another. It's amazing when you come from that clarity one have with it, not to project in relations, to really allow the other person to express themselves, to be able to, and that's the first step, I think, to be able to allow your own experience to yourself, not to hide things from yourself, to accept everything, to forgive. It's a main ingredient in the process, I think. And well, when we are being stuck in our minds, it is a process to clean up. And it's worth it. Yeah, I would say to clean up. And that's probably it. The offer to clean up. Yeah. The freedom that lies in there, the joy, the life is worth it. And I think on a larger scale, if there would be a society with it, with such understanding, such behavior to one another, being free from projection, there is, and that's the point where communication starts. What we do in the general life is not communicating, it's agenda versus agenda, but to really see a person, to really communicate, communicate. This is where communication starts.
By the way, your 15 minutes ended up exactly when you said cleaning up.
Okay.
So that was the end of your 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And just the one thought that comes to me is, I was a teacher I was with for a few years. He always said, basically that's paradise. If you're in a place where people are at a certain level of consciousness, and not consciousness in this hippie new age, oh, I'm so conscious, but consciousness as I'm truly here, I'm taking responsibility of my shit, which is not always pretty, and I'm willing to look, that in his words, that's paradise.
Yeah, and then in my thinking, there is a point where the shit is gone, where your space is really clean.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, never mind.
and I think those are questions, and I want to speak a little bit about that in a moment, but yeah, maybe let's just go there. I need to close my doors really quickly. I'll pause this.
Sure.
By the way, I do really enjoy listening to you ranting. I think there's something that comes through when you're passionate about something that I personally like. So just want to invite you to rant more in your life.
Well, whatever comes up, so not on purpose. It's not just present. So
yeah.
and
So,
I can say it's coming from a place where I can actually see it, what I'm talking about. It's like a space where I am. It's like I see physical stuff outside, I can see it inside as well.
yeah. And actually, I think that's what makes me appreciate your rants, is that it's not my sense when I listen to you talk is it's not just coming from these grand ideas or these concepts, but it's
what I just get, sorry if I interrupt you, is there's a difference, the distinction. When something's coming from the mind, it's a different place where I go.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Exactly.
I can see it. Yeah, that's the difference.
That's what I mean by you ranting, is when you rant, my sense is that you go inside and whatever comes up, you just kind of blurt out. But actually what you blurt out is profound. Whereas when you try to explain things, you're more up here moving around and you get lost. Whereas here you don't really get lost.
Yeah, it's matching the experience I have with it, yes, and where my awareness is going to in space. Yeah. Well, sorry, I interrupted you.
No worries. These are the moments I do this for. And this whole format I'm creating is literally a format because I find that using things like time constraint, using things like switching roles, it's easier to get to these edges of the experience. Like right now we're at the edge of experience. My sense is, if I pick you up correctly, it's like now you're quite spacious and you're like, oh, what's happening now? And my sense is you're really aware of your experience. And my experience is that even happens with people who are not so much in these exploratory spaces, just through the format, because they're forced out of their habits. Because
oops,
that was really loud, and now I'm covered in mate. That's really not good. But well, it's another
break,
isn't it?
Want to clean up first? Little break.
Give me 1 second. So, back.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was trying to say just a second ago is this: getting people to the edge of where they have to get out of their habits, where they have to get out of the way they are usually talking and they're usually communicating into something slightly different. I personally find that so much more interesting than oh yeah, oh, so that's what you think, oh yeah, oh that's, oh yeah, here's what I think.
Yeah,
it's when actually the exploration meets. That's what I'm inspired by. So if you're up for it, you have 15 minutes. You can basically just ask me whatever the fuck you want.
Oh, well, I was thinking about it, and well, nothing came really up so far, and
I'm not that interesting. That's true.
No, that's not the point. You know, it's amazing. I just say what's coming up, and maybe a question arises out of that. I'm amazed about your development. Actually, it's like I think we met the first time. I think it must have been 2012, some such, when I was with Thomas when I spent at your place for the workshops. I have to laugh a little bit about it. when I remember how you were. Yeah.
Yeah, when you said that people who think they need to become conscious, there's usually a hidden agenda.
Yep.
Hell
Yep.
yeah. Hell. Like I didn't say it in the moment because I was enjoying listening to you rant, but that was so much the case for me. There was
Yeah.
when I first got in touch with you also, it was this sense of I had this idea that if I just have these experiences, something will change and I will somehow be better. And
Yeah.
that's where you met me, was when I was
That's
really in
yep.
that.
That's what you expressed.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly. And that was actually the reason why I recommended you to consider going to Peter Ralston. Like, okay, maybe some experiential experience is necessary to wake up. Well, never mind. No, it's what I really favored, and sometimes I really still think about it, is the way you were, like open to people, just going straight away towards people, talking with them and being open, being interested. Somehow a little bit, maybe a little bit more self-confident, what is it called? Confidence. Yeah, you were having a lot of confidence, but maybe a lack of competence.
That is, I would agree with that assessment. Yeah.
But yet the confidence was amazing to watch. Like, hey, here I am, and I have stuff to offer, and I'm curious, and I would that. Yes,
I would actually say that when you talk about that, and I get a little bit embarrassed just hearing it, but we can go down that road. It's your time.
Yeah. Okay.
I really, there was this place of, and I think that's part of what made consciousness work so tricky for me in the beginning, is that I had such a deep conviction of I am somehow special.
Yeah.
And I am somehow better than not everybody, but most people. Definitely most people. And that's also what made it so difficult for me to even allow myself to open to a true inquiry, because that inquiry could potentially show that I am not that special.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that was part of what really made it so tricky for me to get my foot into the door of actually exploring and of actually being vulnerable and open.
Yeah. Yeah. And it creates authenticity when taking the step out of it. Yeah. Yeah. And you may not like what you see. Yeah. That's something I mentioned before. Yeah.
I definitely didn't. Like, some of the things I saw, I absolutely did not like. And I mean, it's still my go-to defense. Whenever I feel threatened, I just become better than the other person.
Yeah.
Like that's my defense.
Well, that's your stuff. So
yes,
since this is my 15 minutes, yeah. Well, basically, yeah, it's really nice to see your development. As far as I can tell, we don't have contact that often, but as far as I can see, what I see, yeah, there's a huge shift in it, certainly. What do you think where you are now? What is it? Yeah, where are you now?
that's a really good question, and one I'm asking myself quite a lot. I think the biggest question I personally have about where I am is that for years I had this incredible drive towards self-development, self-improvement in a way, but also genuine self-discovery. So I think I had a sometimes more, sometimes less healthy blend of those for a while. And this past 2 years, I've gotten less and less inspired by that, and less inspired, not necessarily by true discovery or true inquiry, but my focus has shifted tremendously towards things I would have previously considered more mundane, and like building a business, but not doing it through. So my old strategy of I'm really great, come work with me, but actually doing it through real work and through putting in the time. And so a lot of what I see happening with me right now is that there seems to be a very strong move towards real work and much less emphasis on diving inside me, but actually what are the steps I take in the real world, and what of that is true, and what of that is how I want to live. So that seems to be much more important to me right now than the internal explorations for me personally right now, even though I see how much I've gotten out of that.
Is it possible, that's a question that arises, is it possible that you just collected enough tools for the moment to do the work?
And that can be it. The thing I find is that I'm much less triggered compared to how I was 3-4 years ago. Things don't, I wouldn't go as far as you said, like nothing touches me, like I create all my suffering. I'm not even sure if I fully agree with that, but but I'm much less personally involved. But that gives me a freedom of actually doing things rather than being involved with myself.
In terms of what, like work with other people, or
work
in
with
general,
other people, or work with just, so a normal day of my work, if I compare that to how it would have been 3 years ago, there would have been way more emotional involvement. And there would have been, with that emotional involvement, I would have used up energy that I can't put into my work because I'm involved with myself, which is much less right now. And I don't know if that's because I'm not seeing something and it will hit me in the face in 2 weeks, but that's how I experience it right now.
And what do you think? I think the time's running out as well. So how much time?
We still have 5 minutes.
Okay, that's good. What is it where you want to go with that? From where you are now, what you just described in a certain way, the drive that the drive shifted in some way. With the new drive, whatsoever it is, where do you want to go with it?
I have multiple kind of levels of answer to that. One is, personally, I just want to build a good life for myself. And
well, reasonable.
Yeah. Secondly, in my work with people, I think I have a few, and this is what has come out of my I am greater than everybody. I think I have a few skills and tools that are not necessarily every day, and I want to use those, and I want to serve people who are stuck in their life and who want to move beyond what's their normal right now, and that gives me genuine joy. Whenever I have a session and I have a moment of somebody's world opens up, that's utterly fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
And the third is that I don't really have concepts about it, but I think we as humanity, there's so much more possible. And in one way, I have this sense of I want to be a part of moving towards that, even though I have almost no idea of what that actually means. I have experiences of groups where if people are truly on the same page and if people are truly on the honest with each other, but not in a blunt way, but in a skilled way, what's possible with human relations. I have a sense of what's possible with projects if people are less tied up in their own shit. So I have kind of these tastes of things that are possible, but in that changing the world realm, I have way less concepts of, oh, we should all do this, oh, we should all do that. It's more like I have this sense of I'm being drawn towards that, but I have very little ideas about it.
Okay.
So I imagine it might come up, maybe. I don't know.
That's a good place, I think, in my thinking at least. It's a good place to be. Open possibilities, yeah. It reminds me of myself in a certain way. I was asking myself as well, like, well, it's not actually a question for you, it's reflecting on myself, I think. I was asking myself, why am I doing this? Why is it important to me? And I had times where I withdrew myself completely from others, but that's another story. What you just mentioned is like the possibility we have when we relate in a different way, when we experience in a different way. I think it's unbelievable what we could create with it also. Creativity, when people open up, when they become free, how creativity is possible as well. Joy and all that, that's one drive for me at least. But the major thing is being content with myself, I think. And it's hard to express what I mean with it. It's when, well, I think I just could say to be, or to be oneself. Well, I don't know. It's being content. And I have a feeling with it. It's a place where to be. It's where I am, at least. There is no noise. There is no, well, maybe no mind, because it's done by mind, the crap. It doesn't mean that, well, it's not possible to talk about it, I think. It's in a certain way to come from being, whatever that means. I have a meaning with it. There is no fighting. There is no struggle. There is sharing, understanding each other in a way that most people cannot comprehend, I think. I think if a society like that would be created or be lived, it would be, I don't know what it would be. But that's not I'm getting lost in that. That's not
And actually,
the drive. That's not the drive. It's more mundane. It's life. It's what we live here now. It's not an escape from it. Quite the contrary. it's really to be here, to create that here.
And so we turn it towards the last 15 minutes, which are more my time, but I would like to share them with you because I have an exploration that's genuine for me. And number one, I just want to kind of reflect one more time that you again said you're getting lost. And my sense is you're actually not getting lost. I have this real sense that while you speak, you're expressing and you're speaking from a deep place.
Oops.
Oh.
My picture is freezing. Can you hear me?
Well, I can hear you. I think that's just the internet connection.
For me, my picture is freezing. I don't know if you can still hear me.
I can hear you fine. And
Hello?
I imagine it will be back in a few minutes, a few moments. Yeah.
I'm not lost when I lost.
Yeah, I think, at least from my perspective, it seems like you may not be planning what you're saying. You may not have a plan, but I would like to challenge the idea that you are lost.
Yeah, I can see the point. What's actually happening when I say I'm lost, then, well, two things mostly happens. It's that I really look into myself and have to look for something. It's not immediately present, like, okay, but it's not in a way of thinking, to think about something or something like that. It's different. The second one is there's so much stuff, what I mentioned as, well, let's wisdom, or the place where I look. I'm not saying it is wisdom, but there is something I could talk about. And by just spitting it out, you wouldn't, or most people wouldn't get it. I would have to prepare stuff. I would have to talk about other stuff first.
And I think that that's potentially true. I just want to invite you to maybe look at it as, maybe being lost is not the best perspective on it, but there could be a more useful one for you personally. Also, because I know that you want to share this, and I actually imagine this place of transmitting is very powerful. It may not always be intellectually the place that people who have no experience of this can follow easily, but I actually think on an experiential level, it has a very different oomph to it. But that's not the topic I wanted to talk about. That's just a small maybe offering to you, because I appreciate your rants. The thing I do want to talk about is this question of we are creating our suffering. And because it's genuinely a thing I explore, and where I have, to some degree, contradicting experiences, and to some degree a perspective of where I personally, I have had experiences of, and mine haven't lasted 5 weeks, but I have had experiences of genuinely experiencing a state of things don't impact or bother me in the same way that they used to, or I am aware of how I am creating drama or creating judgments. So I have that experience of, wow, so much of it is made, or created. But the question I have is, how much of being human is also about our care, for instance? So I have it with questions like, a friend of mine is sick. I feel pain about that, or I feel fear about potentially losing that person. And where is the boundary of this pain or this fear is a genuine expression of my aliveness and my humanity and my living in a social environment? And where does it start to turn into drama? And I personally don't like the black and white answer, no matter which way. But I think there's so much subtlety to it, and also so much of where our judgments to some degree and our values are what make us functional and unique on one level, and where they totally fuck us on another level. And it's these subtleties and how to live a human life that doesn't necessarily have to be pure enlightenment. So those are kind of questions I am personally wrestling with, and where I am curious how it is for you. Would you personally go with the suffering and reactions are 100% created, or and we should maybe even strive towards becoming free of them? Or what's your perspective on that?
Well, I think it is a perspective, maybe nothing but a perspective, and maybe too much intellectual stuff coming with it as well. I try to get into it as an experience, because the way I live currently is that I'm not free of it. No, quite the contrary. I'm living it as well again. So, but yes, it is self-made. Not being conscious of it doesn't mean that it's not self-made. We could get into the explanation intellectually, what I just said, like anything you put onto something, the whole reaction on something you perceive is not present in the thing itself, whether it's a thought or some physical object or whatsoever. It's not present in it. And as I said, well, you mentioned, like, what does it mean to be human? There's a assumption, I think, from your side, or a belief that maybe having emotions is part of being human. What is it actually? What is an emotion? It's a drive in some way. It is self-made. It is self-made, and you can become conscious on an experiential level of it, that it's being created by perspectives most often. It's like molecules, that stuff is
and I think the point is, I can actually, and I'm not in that experience now, but from my experiences of the past, I can get that quite deeply. But there's also a place in me where I don't want to miss that. I actually think in one way,
it's not bad to have it. It's and that's the point where a lot of people may have their secondary agenda, where they come from, to that they think it's bad to have it. No, it's not. Well, for me, it's not. I'm not saying it's absolutely bad or not bad. It's my perspective. We come to a point where it's not all just experiential, what I'm talking about. Perhaps a lot of it is perhaps based on an experience, and It's
It's
not bad to have, really not.
yeah.
It's mind. Take mind. It's mind. Well, something I refer to as mind, whatever that is. It's a dynamic I can observe that creates also experience. But look at it in a different way, perhaps. I would like to invite you to look at it in a different way, not to, oh, you have to get rid of it. You have to become free of mind. You have to become rid of your behavior and all that stuff.
That's, by the
Of
way,
help.
not at all the perspective I personally have. It's
No,
just
I don't mean you in a person. I mean, like the audience, whoever is watching this, or whoever, I mean, it's not bad. Ego or self or whatever is used in New Age terms, and the belief to become free of it and stuff. No, it's helpful. You can create it even, but you can also be free of it and still act with it in a certain way. It's not the place where I am at the moment. I live the daily life with up and downs, sure. But you ask me where I am also at the moment and stuff like that. I feel that I'm becoming more calm and free of all that stuff, and it was necessary to have it, to study it. It was really when I got that, who I am, what I am, and all that, I was free of it. When I was talking about the freedom I had with it, being free of it, it was gone. It was not present. How should I study it when it's not present? It was impossible for me to study it. I could see it with other people, okay, but it was not my experience anymore. And in some way, you could say, well, one could say, falling back into it, into those dynamics, living the life again, and being caught up in all that stuff, creating the emotions, the pain, the upsets, and the joy whatsoever. Enabled me to study it again. Like, well, okay, I'm doing it. This is how it feels. I understand much more why people are caught up in it, in their daily life, in their routine and all that. What's hampering, what's not allowing to have this freedom, because one is caught up in all that routine, in what has to be done and what not. It was really necessary to have it myself again, and studying it and understanding why it's present and what it's doing, and maybe what it's good for or not.
yeah, because for me personally, I've had this kind of drive and this idea that I should get rid of it, that I should be free from it. And I noticed that actually for me, the much deeper sense of calm that I've found personally is to accept and to become more deeply aware of, yeah, this is the shit I'm doing. This is where I'm creating. This is where
And
this is where my
and
patterns are, and to have a fundamental acceptance, which is
and this is one, sorry, and this is one way to become free of it, like delving into it. And this is something I take on from Peter, which I repeat from him, because well, he's saying he's not trying to get people away from the experience, but he drives them into the experience, like really looking into them. It seems my internet connection is stuck again.
yes, but I heard you say he's driving them into their experience.
Yep, I don't know, it was stuck again.
Getting them into their experience.
Yeah, okay. is one way, and this is coming from me, like it's one way to really look into it, is the possibility to get free of it. Not to run away from it, but to become conscious of it and become free of it. Because if you get conscious of something, you can get free of it, as I said in the beginning.
And this is,
and you can choose. That's the point. You can choose.
And this is such an interesting perspective for me that I'm taking away as we're moving towards the end of this, is this. I think for me, the idea of freedom was always that it's not there, but that freedom, that's actually not freedom. If you have to have it not there, that's not genuine freedom.
No, it's not. Freedom is to have it in place and be free of it, because we live a daily life, but it's not, well, freedom is not to just get rid of it in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. So maybe this is the end for today. Freedom is not to get rid of it, but to be with it and free of it.
You can be with it, yes, and just think about it. You can be with it, like coming from being, but well, you can ponder on that.
I think in one way that's one of the fundamental things I'm trying to share with people. I'm getting much more clear on that. I think the fundamental perspective shift that I hope people can have through my work is the shift of, what is it like for me to be with whatever it is? And that shift, if I can truly get, oh, what is it like for me to be with this right now? Is, if people get that, I was talking about, it gives me true joy when I have these experiences with people. When people truly have that experience of being with, it's a game changer in my perspective. And it's a game changer that's, at least from where I can see it, is much more easy to attain than enlightenment, where there is nothing there. But actually to just have that space, and to then realize that that space is bigger than just that. That seems to be something that happens regularly and when I am with people, and that's what makes my heart very happy, to be with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could get into it again, but we better stop it here.
This could also be a Peter Hudson okie dokie moment. Okie dokie.
Yep. That's it. Okie dokie.
Thank you very much for now, and I will stop the recording now.
Yeah, okay.
You never know what's around the next corner. So.